Hey y'all, how you doing? Who's out there? Anyone out there? Beautiful Friday. If you're there, say hello in the chat. Send me a question. I see someone is there. Hello. Hello, person on the other end. Oh, got a couple people. Hey y'all, please send me some questions and we'll get started. Start throwing back answers at you. Hope everybody's doing well. Friday morning here in LA. I need some questions. Y'all, what's up? I'm ready here. Ready to answer. Meanwhile, maybe I'll just bland my pad. If this is long enough, let's see here. There we go. Hey, Julian. How are you, man? I saw you here last time. Yes. Yes. How's it going? Anything new? Anything new, Julian? Tell me where you are, Julian. Where do you live? Yes. Hello. We can talk about hand technique. We can talk about recording. We can talk about mosquitoes in my studio that are going to get me eventually. Argentina, are you there right now? Nice. I was just working with a friend. I just did some recording this week for a friend down in Chile. Oh, thanks, man. Right on. Yes, mosquitoes are bad. A friend down in Chile, producer named Jose Jaras. I think I'm pronouncing it right. Jaras. What interface do you use recording drums? I have an Apollo X16, Mr. Hey, which means 16 ins, no mic pre's. All my mic pre's are separate. Yeah, Jose is very cool. I worked with him one time here in LA. I think he was living here for a minute. I don't think he is anymore, but he's back down there and he's working with a new artist. Why don't I give a shout out to this new artist? I'll find out who it is. Interface. Apollo X16. I can't say enough about the Apollo stuff. I think it's really great. I do need to check out Luna too, which I've been meaning to. I'm a long-time Pro Tools user, but Luna seems pretty intriguing to me. Has anybody checked out Luna yet? All right, Jose, I'm going to find out who this new artist I was working with. Oh, actually, I think it's in a text. Jose. Oh, Felipe Mira. M-I-R-A. Felipe Mira. I think he's a new artist. And I think he's from Chile. Okay, an RME. What is RME? Hey, did I answer your question? You need any more help with that? If you do, let me know if I can expand on the Apollo UA. What is RME? It's not Logic. It's not Cakewalk. It's not Ableton. It's not Luna. It's RME. Anyone else on here, please send some questions. I'm happy to answer. I'm just going to speak. Just going to keep talking. I'll answer whatever you need. So make conversation in the chat, and I will hit you back. But any dialogue here is good, and I'll just keep spitting out whatever I know that maybe I can help with, or just talk. We can just talk touring, experiences, recording, anything. Meanwhile, I'm going to work on my doubles in my left hand until I get more questions. No, RME is a German company doing sound cards. Oh, you can't try Luna. Oh, right. Maybe you have to have an Apollo to try Luna. I'm not really sure. I do know the software is free. But yeah, I had a Digidesign 192 for a long time, an HD 192, and that was really great. It was super solid. But once I upgraded to the Apollo, there was definitely a sonic difference. It was better. Everything seemed more clear. I really dig it. Did you go to school for music and audio recording engineering? No. Short answer is no, I did not. I'm totally self-taught. I did go to school for music. I went to the University of North Texas. I have a degree in jazz performance, so I was a jazz major, and I studied all kinds of drumming there, classical percussion. I played marimba and timpani and drum kit. I studied with Ed Soph, who is a kind of well-known educator. But as far as engineering and audio, none of that. No, I'm totally self-taught. It's all from working on my own and being in other studios and, peeking over engineers and producers' shoulders, asking them what they're doing, and then just experimenting on my own. So, sorry, I can't pronounce that. Achabla. So, and no producing. I've produced friends. I haven't gotten deep into producing. I would like to do more. I don't pursue it that hard, but I have produced friends' records and just people that I'm really comfortable with. You do. Frank. Is that pertaining to the UA Luna thing? You have to have an Apollo, right? That's what I'm guessing. Are you a 4-piece drum kit type person? That would definitely be my typical setup. I would say lately, I got to say I'm missing toms more because I grew up playing usually 2 rack toms and 2 floor toms, and I do miss that. I think part of the reason I stick with a 4-piece kit a lot now is because I change my drums out so often in my studio that it's an easier setup and it's quicker. Frank, yes, specific to UA. So I think that's why I end up with a 4-piece often. Also playing around town, especially here in Los Angeles, there's so many house kits in the clubs, or even studios. If there is a house kit, it's a 4-piece, and that's just kind of what's normal. But I really love 2 rack toms and or 2 floor toms, and I think it's a totally different. I don't know. It can definitely draw more ideas out of you. So I miss having more toms, and I've actually been contemplating just having a kit set up like that to practice more. Thanks, Frank. Yes, specific. Would you mind doing a close-up of your grip on your left hand? I'm having trouble closing my roughs while trying to not squeeze my sticks too hard. Yeah. Okay. This is exactly what I'm working on, actually. So let's see. Pad. Okay. So oddly enough, I have 2 kids, and I could care less if they're going to be drummers, but I am teaching them music. But one thing we're doing right now is we're just playing on a pad to learn rhythm. You got to pass on the trade a little bit. And one thing I'm having them do is just play singles and get the rebound, right? And then do the double, right? Hey, Tim. Thank you. I'll get to that question in a second. So here's the double, right? This is what I'm doing. Just the rebound, bounce, pull it back up. So the funny thing is teaching my kids, I'm becoming much more aware of my own grip. So I'm just working on this, and I'm actually working on a whole concept lesson kind of based around this in the kit, not just sitting on a pad. All right, so I'm really working on this, trying to keep these open and really let the stick bounce on its own. Really let it bounce on its own. Like I'm not like, so I'm on a reflex pad. It's fairly dead. And then when getting into, especially getting into paradiddles and things like this, interchanging with, so I'm really just working on relaxing. So hopefully this is helpful, Julian. I'm just really trying to relax and work on these things slowly and keep my hands open. Right? Okay. So just keeping my left hand open, letting it bounce, and letting the stick do the work. I mean, it's the same thing that you hear anybody talk about when they're talking about grip and rebound. Okay, just really trying to keep it open. Tim, thank you. Thanks, man. Thanks for your comment. I appreciate that. I'm glad you're learning a lot. I like doing this stuff. Frank Harbaugh. I don't know if you know Frank, but I'm from Michigan, and I'm a big Michigan football fan. That may not mean anything to you, but Jim Harbaugh. All right, started playing drums in my late 40s. Still wonder sometimes if that will hinder me opposed to starting as a kid. Sometimes my basic feel is inconsistent. Your thoughts? You know, this is my thought about that. Do I think that when you start young, like somebody like Tiger Woods, and you get ingrained with like incredible technique and things when you're young, and that muscle memory is just there, is that helpful? Of course. Okay, there's nothing that we can do to beat, quote unquote, beat that. But do I think that in your late 40s or wherever you are now, that you cannot develop a great feel and consistency? No, I think that's untrue. I think, sure, there may be more challenges because, they say that our brains are less open to learning and it may be harder to change. But, one of my philosophies is I want to continue to improve as a drummer and get better the older I get. I don't want to get worse. I don't want to stay the same. I think there are a lot of examples of great drummers who continue to improve. I'm sure if you looked at Vinnie Colaiuta when he was 30 and Vinnie Colaiuta when he was 45, he's a better drummer. I have no doubt about it because that guy always continues to learn, right? So practicing every day, being consistent about the practicing, being very intent on what you're trying to learn and get good at. And as long as you stick with that, in my mind, I believe that you can achieve those things that you're going for. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully that helps. Tim, hey, I'm also just to put it out there. There is this thing where if you guys just want to send like, coffee money or something for giving out information, it's available down there on your right, which would be awesome. Especially in this time of area, what we're going through. Any tips on recording jazz brushes, Tim? I seem to sometimes end up with really scrappy sound from close miking. Yes, I agree. Okay, two thoughts. First of all, is your brush playing really smooth? My brush playing is mediocre, probably not as good as it used to be. I love brushes. I do not spend time on brushes, but I love listening to guys like Jeff Hamilton or Steve Smith or any of those incredible brush guys. And I wish I could make those sounds, but honestly, I don't spend the time on it that I need to. Okay, to get to more to your question, I do think that brushes for an effect as a close mic. A close mic on brushes can be super cool. But I do think that because of the nature of what you're trying to get, which is a smoother sound, I think a farther, like a mono overhead or even the mic, you know, a few inches back from the snare is going to help you get a smoother sound. If you know what I mean. So unless you're incredibly smooth with your brush playing, not only that, let's put it to this concept. If you're playing a snare drum with sticks and you listen to a close mic, the snare head itself doesn't always sound great on its own, right? Doesn't always sound great. A close mic is to get an effect. But if you add an overhead mic, all of a sudden you're hearing the tone of the snare more, right? You use the tone of a snare when you blend those two sounds. So, Tim, does that make sense? So, I mean, especially for jazz recording, I like more open sounding mics. Is this helping? Hit me up there if that's helping. Yeah. Okay. So yes, I think exactly what you're saying. I think close miking on brushes can be clunky. So obviously make sure your playing is great, and then pull the mics back. Okay. Frank, I may or not be related. Right on. Thoughts on concert toms? Hey, what does that mean? I love concert toms. Can you give me a more specific question? Thanks, Julian. Whoa, dude. Thank you. Much appreciated, man. Thank you. Wow, that's very generous of you. I'm overwhelmed by that. Thank you. Hey, seriously, hit me with a little more specific question on concert toms. I love concert toms. I love them dead. I love them open. I definitely use them, which you may have seen in my videos. So give me something a little more specific and I'll hit that. Walter, consistency comes from focus. Yes, this is true. Frank, yeah. Walter, you are what you do. Yes. Ryan Rogers, Cardboard Box. Yeah. Magazine, tabletop. So, but I think so to you other guys chiming in on Tim's comment, I think Tim was asking a little more about the recording part of it as opposed to the playing. That's what I gathered. Yeah, brushes. Tim, who's your favorite brush guy? Who do you listen to a lot? Paul Motion, man, incredible brushes. Those Bill Evans recordings from back in the day, late 50s. Okay, more questions. Hit me. Hands, brushes, recording. Walter, any questions? Ryan? Where are we all chiming in from? Man, that's not... I know. I understand. But I appreciate it anyway. I get it. I wonder how much there's a delay on this this stream. Are you guys busy in this time? You guys recording? Are we all recording drummers here? Or are we learning? Where are we mostly at? Do you ever have days when you feel like you suck? Show more. Yes, Ryan. I have many days where I feel like I suck. I will go into this more specifically. Okay, I am 46 years old. I feel as I get older, and I feel like I am a more confident person in everything I do. Yeah, I know. I have lost many nights of sleep where I just feel like I'm not good enough a drummer, and I just need to be better. And I look at what other guys can do, and I can't do that, and all kinds of things, abilities I'd like to have. But I'm also way more confident of like what I'm good at, and I know that I'm really good at certain things. Do I wish I could play break beats like Jojo Mayer? I do. It's a lot of time I would have to put into that to get good. Are there days where I feel like I could be more consistent and should be? For sure. Um, and then there's times where I go back to listen to things though that I've done like weeks ago or whatever, and I go, what? And I go, wow, I don't know why I thought that was shitty. It sounds way better than I thought it did at that time. Um, right. So yeah, I'm looking at your last comment. It's not just you. Yeah, imposter syndrome. I know it well. Yeah. No, we all have that. Trust me. I mean, I've had conversations with well-known drummers, like let's say famous drummers that have the same fucking thoughts, man. We all have insecurities, So yeah. Hello, Victor. How's it going, man? Hit me with some questions. Julian, yep. All our gigs are canceled. Trying to focus on practicing. Me too. I'm trying to practice a lot. Achabla. Is that it? Achabla? DIY recording my basement. Your tips on this channel have been very helpful. Thank you. I'm going to keep going. Do you ever blend multiple close mics on one source, like a condenser mic on a diamond? Okay. Any tips on that? I don't do that often, but I have seen it done, and yes, I have it. I don't do it often. Okay, gathering my thoughts on this one, Seth. I think it can be effective. Let's just take a snare drum, for example. We put on Frank. Thank you, much appreciated, man. Anthony, there we go. Okay, so my friend Pete Min, who's a really awesome engineer, almost always uses two mics on the snare, and one he's compressing and one he's just leaving flat. So there's two things. One could be two types of mics that are different tones. One that's maybe a little fatter, getting a little more frequency range, and another that's pointed, getting a little more attack. As long as they're in phase, I think it can be super helpful. And obviously, if you have the channels, if you can do that, and if you want to be able to blend those tones, and I think it can make your job easier if you're doing it correctly. I think it can make it more difficult too. Obviously, if you're not. Obviously, if you're asking this question, you probably know what you're doing. The other thing I was going to say is, especially with UADs now, is just duplicating a track. So taking, let's say, your snare track, duplicate it, putting, let's say, one EQ setting on one and a different EQ setting on another, and or compression. And that way you are maybe achieving the two sounds that you're looking for out of the same source. Granted, they can be different because obviously, recording stereo or whatever, you have to have two different sources, right? So does that help, Seth? Does that make sense? Let me know if you want me to elaborate more on that. Yeah, but lately I would say I duplicate tracks a lot more for certain things. Hey, Peter. Thanks, Peter. Any thoughts on the Beyer M160? Yes. My thought is it's possibly my favorite mic. Very close to my favorite mic. They are my main overheads. I use them in my rooms sometimes too. I think they're amazing on hi-hat. Man, they're just so great all around. Not only that, I first became really aware of M160s from an old friend, a guitar player friend, and has recorded a ton of acoustic guitar with M160s. I've seen them on guitar amps. So I think they're incredibly versatile mics. I think they're a pretty good price. I think they're about $700. I remember. Maybe that's for the pair. I don't remember. But I think they're incredibly versatile mics. I think they're nice, and the effect of the ribbons, but they're not as dark as something like Coles. Are they cool as a mono overhead? Yeah. Incredible as a mono overhead. they're great mics. Obviously, I'm sure you probably know, Peter, that when the Levy Breaks was M160s out in the castle, right? Okay, wait, Anthony, are you on my mailing list? I literally just made a little video of this, how I do hand claps, and it's going to come out through my mailing list. So I'll just say, please sign up for that at my Sticks and Wire, at my website. And I don't inundate you with emails. It's like every 2 weeks. But okay, hand claps, loaded question. What I do is I will clap for maybe, 8 or 16 bars, and then I cut the claps and I then layer them. If I'm tracking by myself, right? And that way you can get like a group sound, because you want them be slightly off, right? Because that's what makes a hand clap. It's not perfectly in time. And you also need multiple layers, which sounds like multiple people. So if you play for 8 bars, but then you cut each one and put them into separate tracks, maybe bus them to the same track, all of a sudden sounds like 16 people, right? 4 people. And then of course you can layer them in with samples, whatever you want, higher or lower, stereo, mono, whatever. Seth, I often possess 2 snare mics bussed together process, but now I want to experiment more, treating them separately. Right. Okay. Yeah. So the compression thing, EQ thing, which I kind of touched on. Yeah. Yeah. Or duplicating tracks. Right. Victor, do you use recording only drums and then cymbals approach? Yes. I suppose that is for separation in separate mixing stage. Yes. I utilize it depending on the track. If there is a track that really requires that, like sonically, and or for parts, I do that. I just did on my Patreon. I just recently put up. I did a track recently for a client, and it's gonna. And not trying to name drop, but supposedly Bob Clearmountain's going to mix it. He mixed the last record, and part of it was that they wanted me to. The producer Dave Way wanted me to really put a lot of stuff on, because it's going to be mixed in surround sound. Okay, thank you, Ryan. Appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. So on this particular tune, I recorded 2 different drum kits. Okay, so I'm going to try to wrap this up into a nutshell, because it could go on forever. I did a kick and snare pass. I then did separate concert toms. I then did shakers. I did crash cymbals, all separately. Okay, and then I did actually a second drum kit, which was kick, snare, hat for different verses. Separate snare drum, and then I also programmed on top of all that. So, I mean, tons and tons of drums. And for those purposes, they really wanted it separate. They really wanted it separate for mixing purposes and be able to mix around surround sound. So, second purpose there, right? So, all right, thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it, man. Okay, so Victor, does that help? Often also, if there's like super 80s things and I know I have to EQ things very heavily, like maybe add a lot of high end or things like that, and I know that the cymbals are going to get caught up in that. Like, let's say I have to add a lot of high end to the snare, but I know the cymbals are going to get crazy harsh. That may be another reason to do it. So let me know if that helps. Yep. Okay, cool. Peter, thoughts on recording brushes? That's funny, Peter, because we just talked about this, but I'll give you another one. I'll repeat it again quickly. A lot of weird overtones. Okay, so short answer is try either pulling your snare mic, your direct snare mic, farther back a few more inches, or maybe just using a stereo overhead or mono overhead. And that takes these kind of weird, close things away. You got to remember that when you're putting a mic, let's say this is our drum. This is our drum. You put a microphone on it. This is our microphone. Putting a microphone is like putting your ear there, right? So does it make sense a lot of times to put your ear right up to next to a snare drum? No, because we're going to hear a lot of strange things that we wouldn't hear if we're an audience member, right? We're standing 10 feet back, 15 feet back, listening to a drummer in a club play brushes. It doesn't make any sense. We're not going to hear all these weird brush things that are happening 2 inches away as opposed to 15 feet away, right? So try marking farther back. My favorite jazz recordings are definitely things that are not close mic'd, right? Julian, would you do Beat Detective before sending them to clients? Beat Detective. Okay. First of all, I am not good at Beat Detective itself, like doing it. It never seems to work for me. I don't understand it. I don't understand how people use it. I think it sucks, frankly. When I say identify beat, blah, 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 it just sounds like crap after that. So do I use Beat Detective itself? No. If I need to for a certain track, will I put myself on the grid? Yes, I will. But I do it manually. And in that case, I'm usually looping myself, whether it's 2 bars or 4 bars, and I correct those, and then I use those in sections. And then, if I need a fill or if the fill's there and it needs to be corrected, then I will do that. But I do it all manually because the real Beat Detective thing never seems to work well for me. I think it sounds like shit. So hopefully that helps. I am not afraid, though, on certain types of tracks to do that. My ego at this point, look, I practice to not have to do that, but there are times where we're playing with machines and we're human beings, and it is what it is. We're not that. Okay, Peter, yes, right on. We're not machines. So yeah, I'm not opposed to it. In fact, I've had people do it to me on sessions right in front of me, and it used to bum me out because I think, oh my God, I suck. They're doing it right in front of me. But I actually learned that it's kind of a sound, and some people are going to do it. So I recorded for Seal one time, and I'm blanking on the producer's name. Well-known producer that always works with him. Totally blanking. English guy. Wow. Anyway, I finished the take. They immediately started to beat detective it, and I was like, you know what? This is what they do. This is part of their process. They're going to make it quote unquote perfect. So do what you got to do. Obviously strive for playing the best and not having to do that, but I think of it as a stylistic choice, right? Iced coffee. Cheers, y'all. Any more questions? I see we got 13 people here. There might be 13 people have asked me questions. What else we got? Frank, picked up your drum course from Pro Academy. I'm finding that I need to get over trying to exactly capture the kit in the room. A rookie misconception I had going on. What do you mean by kit in the room? Exactly capture the kit in the room. Explain that to me, and I will come back to it. Ryan, that's what I love about recording at home. I'd rather do 20 takes, and if I have to use it as much as a full take as possible versus 2 takes and quantize it. Yep. Okay, great. I can let me jump on that also, Ryan. I also think that like this whole idea that, especially that I grew up with reading drum magazines in the 80s and 90s, early 90s, that there was this magic first take thing. Come in and play the first take and it's magical. I think there are some guys that do that and they read the shit out of it. Let's say Vinny can probably do that. I mean, I know he can. J.R. Robinson, certain guys. Abe Jr. is, we all know that Abe is incredible, and I hear that he does that. For me, it's sometimes it's about getting to know a tune more intimately and not playing it the first time. Like, I want to play it 4 or 5 times because my ideas are going to be better. My fills are going to make more sense going into the next section because I know what's coming, because I know the song. Right? Like, the idea of the first take is presumably you've listened to it and you've charted it out, but your natural instincts are going to come out more the more you've played a song. That's why you rehearse with bands or whatever. So yeah, like, many takes, nothing wrong with it. Get it right, do it well. Victor, quantize sucks. Yes, but it can be a stylistic choice, right, Victor? Or you mean Beat Detective itself? Okay, Frank, making it sound more like the live sound your ears hear in the room. Okay. So you're talking about creating like a sonic palette, as opposed to just that, like the recording process of like making it special, as opposed to like kind of the Steve Albini approach where it's just like the thing that you hear. I found myself trying to capture the hi-hat detail and not getting it like I was hearing it. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. So mixing your close mics and far mics and creating a sonic palette, that you want to be happening. I think that's what you're explaining, right? Yeah. Where do you guys all live? I'm curious. In general. Right. Okay, Frank. Right. Yeah. Nope. If you want perfect drums, just program them. So Victor, you're opposed to like cutting yourself to quantize it? What if you want that sound? As opposed to what if you have a sound that you can make that's not the programmed thing? Ryan, Nashville, right on. Southern Connecticut. Yeah, man. I was born in Anthony, I was born in Hartford. I only lived there for a year, but I have relatives in Hartford still. Santa Cruz. I love Santa Cruz. I could use some Santa Cruz right now. Get out of LA. Yeah. Too many great drummers here. Oof. That's good. That's good. We got to trade ideas with great drummers. Sander. Hey, man. Hello, Norway. I love Norway. I haven't been there in a long time. Early 2000s, last time I was there. Okay. Do you do much processing before sending off your tracks, or does it just depend on the people you're working with? Yes. Ireland. Right on. I'm sorry, man. I can't pronounce your name. Eamon. Close. Eamon. I miss Ireland. Last time I was in Ireland was with Damien Rice. Yes. 2007, I think. No. Played with Melissa Etheridge, I think, at some point. Oh, Evan. Right on. Victor, Mexico. Okay. I process. Definitely I process. I EQ. I always EQ. And then the compression comes from, the compression is tricky because it's depending on who I work with, who I'm working for, I should say. If it's someone that's maybe less experienced and I know that I need to like have the sound for them, I am not afraid to over compress to get the sound, right? I'm not afraid of it. If I know it's going to go to an engineer or mixer that I know well and I know their work, I will back off. I will not go so far on that. I may send an option, but I won't go as far because I know that they're going to know what they're doing and they may not want me to slam something compression wise, so they have room to do it once they're mixing. Okay, so it just depends on the process, or depends on the track, and it depends on who I'm working for. Anthony, your favorite place you've traveled to while on tour? Paris is one of my favorite cities. I spent a really good amount of time in Paris. First time I went there was in 1999. I went there a lot when I was touring with Alanis Morissette. Unfortunately, I haven't been there a lot since well, I don't know. I don't think I've been there since 2010, or maybe a little earlier. I love Paris. Japan is also one of my favorite places on earth. Man, I just can't say enough about Japan. I love the culture. I love the food. I love how clean it is there. But there's other places I've been to that have been incredible. I played in Venezuela once outside of Caracas, and Caracas was pretty crazy. This was early 2000s, before obviously political craziness there, but the people there were incredible, and it was just an incredible place to play. So, it's hard to say. I love South America. I love Brazil. I love Ireland. Man, I love Sweden, Norway, honestly, not just blowing smoke. And there's certain places in the States, New York, I can never get enough New York City. So, okay, Sander, tips on recording drums with a shallow roof. Ooh, yeah. Transient Designer, if you need a bigger sound, Transient Designer. I'd rather, probably, if I had a shallow roof, I'd probably rather have the room more dead, to have less, slapback and funky sounds, and then add reverb from there. If you're a fan of Chad Blake, he records drums in a vocal booth, and he can get incredibly big sounds if he needs to. So I would say shallow roof, make it more dead, less things flying back, less weird sounds, right? Julian, perception of pocket has more to do with the sound of consistency of hits, would you say? Tricky question. Maybe. So there's a few people I think of when I think of pocket. Steve Jordan. Steve Jordan has incredible time, but he also has time that moves. Fact. It's time that moves. And then there's guys like Levon Helm or Charlie Watts, who have incredible pockets, in my opinion, incredible feels, and their time can be super funky and inconsistent. And then there's somebody like Vinny, keep talking about Vinny in this one, who has an incredible pocket and his time won't move, but incredibly consistent sound. I think pocket, yes, I do agree. Consistency of hits, I think it can be a consistency of swing. Like if you're swinging more open and then it becomes more closed, or if you're trying to play straight and then it starts to swing, the pocket feel can change. So I think pocket is a very mysterious subject to talk about. But I think it's consistency of swing, and I do think it's consistency of sound. Right? And of course, time. There is some time in there. How's that for a vague answer? Hey. Go-to ride cymbal. Do I have a go-to ride cymbal? I'll interrupt this question really quick. I am doing this kind of thing where you guys can donate for if you feel like it, for me giving out information here. If you feel it's like it's in the bottom right hand corner, you guys can throw me some coffee money if you care to. I don't really have a go-to ride cymbal. Because I feel like when I'm tracking, I change my ride cymbals sometimes 2-3 times a day. I will tell you my favorite ride cymbals. In fact, let me get them. Nobody leave. I will be back in 45 seconds at the most. All right. First one, hang on. All right, show and tell. So I grabbed 3 because they're the 3 I use the most. Okay, I have other favorite ride cymbals, but these are the 3 I use the most. All right, this is the Agap, formerly Matt Chamberlain signature ride. This is 23 inches. I like this because it's super dark, but it's also Xander. Thank you, appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. I like this because it's dark and it's dry, but it's not too dry, and it's got definition. Okay, so this works in a lot of tracks for me. I actually have a piece of tape on the back too, 1 piece of gaff tape. Sorry, I know the light's not great, but let me play it. This probably sounds like shit through the speaker here, but I'll play it real quick. Okay, so it's very complex. It's a sound that I really dig, and it's kind of I would say this is probably my go-to. Next is this, the Agap Mantra. So this is the brighter cymbal. This is more like my rock cymbal. It's brighter. It's got a pretty decent bell on it. It's thicker, so it's heavier, but still bends fairly well. You can see that. All right. This is a 22. And I usually, it's mostly 22-inch cymbals that I use. 22s or 24s. Rarely do I use smaller sizes unless for their like effects. So this is brighter. You may hear that. Maybe you can hear that. I don't know. Let me know if it sounds like crap and I'll stop playing it. But this is a go-to for brighter things where I need more definition and let's say a rock thing. All right. Last, this is the 30th anniversary. Yep, you're right, Victor. This is the 30th anniversary ride from Agap. And it's interesting because it looks exactly like an old K, right? Like you can't tell. And there's a drum shop in Los Angeles called the Pro Drum Shop. And one day I walked in there. This is probably, I don't know, 2010 or 11. And I saw this sitting there and I was like, holy shit, you guys have an old K. How much is it? And they looked at me and they said, that's not an old K. That's an Agap 30th anniversary. They had just come out. So, and I went over and I hit and I was like, I have to buy this. So I bought it right then. And subsequently, they've actually changed how they make these. This is a pretty rare one. There's different type of lathing in it now. I know it's hard to see. Let me see if I get that light out of there. But they sound different now too. This one's a little darker, a little more complex. This is pretty close to that Tony Williams, early Tony Williams, like that Foreign More, that Nefertiti ride cymbal sound. So I use this a lot. I'm very careful with it because I know once this cracks, if it does, that's it, man. I'll have to buy a K. So those are my 3 favorite go-to ride cymbals. Yeah. And this is also that's a 22. All right. So I usually stick with 22s. I have some 24s that I really love too. My go-tos are a 20, 22, and 30th, and a 22-inch signature. Yeah, the signature are great. They can do anything, right? And they record like butter. Yes. I do have, let's see, I do have an, Agap just put out some new Ion cymbals. I do have an 18, the custom dry, that's really cool. It's kind of like the Zildjian breakbeat ride, which I actually really love, which is an 18. But it's a very certain thing, specific thing. Julian, do you still get excited about gear or snares? I used to be all over it, not now so much. Same boat. I get more excited about like a new guitar pedal that I can put my drums through. And that's really because I kind of at this point I've been fortunate enough to play a lot of different snares and drums and things like that, and I know what I have is good and I like it, and I've kind of gotten that through my system. I do wish I owned a real Tama bell brass, like an 80s actual Tama bell brass, but those are fucking way expensive, and if I ever, sometimes I get to use them on sessions when I have rental gear, but am I going to shell out $5,000? Probably not. So yeah, I'm in the same boat. I also have kids, so my money it doesn't go to gear anymore. It goes to them. Michael Brooks, hi. Where and with whom was your last gig? Last live gig, Michael? Last live gig? Are you talking touring? Are you talking locally? What are we talking about? You there? Michael. Live. Right. But on tour or just locally? Okay, whatever. I'll answer both. My last local LA in-town gig was with my friend Jeff Young, who is a keyboard player. Michael, tour. Okay, I'll answer tour after that. My friend Jeff Young, who's a really great keyboard player, and he set up this kind of residency here in LA. And I think the last time we played was March 5th, and that was it. Unfortunately, the residency obviously was canceled. And if you ever check out Jeff Young, Jeff has played with like Steely Dan and Sting, and he plays with Jackson Browne. But it was a lot of kind of like bluesy tunes and things like that. In fact, I've put a couple clips on my Instagram, but I do have a full GoPro concert of it. But whatever. Last tour. The last time I actually full on toured was in 2016, believe it or not, with Josh Groban. And that was a 6-week tour, summer tour. And that was in the States. And I have traveled for, let's say, corporate gigs and things since then, but no actual like touring tours. And a lot of that's out of design. Just home, raising my kids, working on my studio, things like that. But I do kind of miss being on the road here and there. Does that help, Michael? Want me to follow up on that? Xander, this may be a weird thing to ask, but why do you have your pedal the way you do? Tall beater and it further back. Is it a feel thing? Does it help with the consistency? I don't think it's a weird question. I just think it's personal preference. It just feels good to me. Where I've learned to put my foot on the pedal for rebound. I always find it weird that people have a shorter beater. Maybe part of it also, I'm not a particularly fast drummer. So I don't mind that long wind up, for power. I think that's probably where it comes from, playing live, just wanting to get like volume and power, and having a shorter beater doesn't feel like that for me, right? Does it help with consistency? I don't think it necessarily helps with consistency. I think consistency is in you, not the gear. My father's 1000 feels heavy enough out of the box. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just like how it feels. If I sit down on a pedal and it's shorter, I immediately feel it on somebody else's thing. So I think it's just personal preference. Synonymous, what do you think about concert drums like toms without reso heads? I love them. Oh yeah, I was supposed to get a follow-up question from somebody about this, but I didn't see it. I love concert toms. I got Vista lights that are concert toms that I have super dead. I use them for a lot of tracks, and I have these really wide open concert toms, a la Phil Collins, literally, almost literally like Phil Collins with ambassadors, and I use those all the time. I love them. Any plans for posting another live gig like the John Fogerty? No, not at the moment, Victor. I have let's see. I mean, there's on my page. There's a Melissa Etheridge concert. There's a bunch of Alanis Morissette stuff. There's the Fogerty thing. There is, I believe, there's definitely a Chris Cornell thing. There's an Idina Menzel thing. Maybe maybe I've not put up a Groban thing, but maybe I'll do that. But that's really all I got. Is there something you're looking for in particular, Victor? Where did you go to kick drum mic for the studio? I don't have a Michael. I don't have a go-to. I'm changing them out pretty consistently, depending on the track. I always use my FET 47 on the outside, and then I change out between an M88 for inside kick, the Biodynamic PZM mic, which for like a lot of attack, like a rock track, I'll change that out. I also use the Audio Technica ATM 125 or ATM 25, I can't remember. And I interchange those depending on the sound that I want. 421 too. Just depends. But the FET 47, I guess, is always up. Julian, how do you deal with hearing loss? Do you always wear earplugs? Yes, I always wear earplugs. I've been wearing earplugs since I was pretty young. When I was in college at North Texas, my practice room was about this. It was probably like 4 feet by 4 feet. It was very small. It was always loud in there. So I always either use pretty isolated headphones, and I also have custom earplugs that are made. Yeah, I always wear them. So, knock on wood, I'm been pretty good about protecting my hearing. In fact, I hate playing without earplugs because it just hurts, and I know that when I get home, or I stop playing after, it's just annoying. So I hate that ring. So I'm just really cautious about it. Synonymous, how would you tackle 80s drums production? And by that, I don't mean Phil Collins style gated reverb drums, okay? Maybe something closer to the late 70s, early 80s records with really clean, tight drums. How would I tackle that? That's a big question. Can you give me, so if it's not give me a song example, Synonymous, and let me try to explain. So something that's 80s without reverby, gated reverb, like something really dry. Give me a song example, or at least a band. Victor, or sorry, Julian, do you wear earplugs? Can't play without protection either, right? For me, everything sounds really harsh, and the plugs make it so I can really enjoy playing live. I agree. Yeah, you have to be more conscious of your dynamics, because it's easier to not be as balanced unless you're really aware. But I agree. Everything sounds better to me. Not better. In a live situation, maybe it does sound better in a live situation. So, Synonymous, hit me. Let me know. Probably gonna wrap up soon here too, guys. Sounds cleaner. Yeah, sounds cleaner. Especially when, especially on a stage. I think when you may have a monitor screaming at you from one side with like acoustic guitars and vocals, right? I listened to Tatsuro Yashimata recently, and his earlier stuff, something like of Come On or some pretty tight drums. He's on YouTube. Okay, let me see if I can check this out really quick. Tsuro Yamashita. What was the song? Come along. Come along. All right, let's listen really quick. Hang on. Turn my speakers.
The most common reaction to a virtual arrangement is I didn't know flowers.
Thanks, Anthony. Appreciate it, man.
I'm a floral artist
in
and
Rotrax.
the founder and director of Birch. I use
All right.
Squarespace as a tool
Citro
to express what my business is to those who don't get to experience.
Yeah. Synonymous. Okay, so those to me just things sound really dry. Obviously, I just listened for 5 seconds, but those are pretty dry. I mean, that's kind of a big question. I want to give you an answer, but it's just, I mean, I think tuning your drums that way, and then obviously tuning your drums that way, and having them dry so they don't blend together, bleed too much. I think that's a lot of the sound that's happening in those. The room is not much, probably not much room sound. I will say that a lot of, like, probably, a lot of the stuff I have on my Patreon channel could help you with this, because there's a lot of lessons on things like this. So, I mean, I hope that's an answer. Let me know if that helps you out, without, skirting the question. Okay, do I send raw tracks after you record, or you process some sounds in the box? Yes, both. CTRO drums, I do both. Whatever. Hey, Chris, how are you, man? Thank you, Anthony. I do both, depending on who I'm working for, depending on what the track is. Yeah, whatever is proper for the thing. You know what I mean? For who I'm working for. Does that help, Mr. CTRO? And Synonymous, does that help you guys? Yes, no, yes, you there? Room size is a factor, yes. I imagine I would have to muffle plenty and try to mic individual drums or find some other way of preventing bleed. Yeah, you can't prevent bleed, right? Because, you have multiple mics up, right? But the kind of illusion of preventing bleed is drier drums in a drier room, so there's less sound bouncing around. But I think you'd be surprised, or maybe not surprised, depending on your level of recording. Like, close mics really sound close. You're going to get cymbals in there and things like that. But a dry room, no room mics, that definitely sounds like no room mics. Yeah. Always both versions. CTRO. Do you clean tracks, like fades and clean manually, bleeding from tracks? Again, this is a no, I don't always send both. I send what I feel like is appropriate. Unless, no, the answer is I always process my drums, depending on, let's say if it's like a Stonesy type track, then I don't do much to it because it needs to sound like it needs to sound in the room, right? Synonymous, you're welcome. Yes, check out the Patreon. I think it could help if you there's a lot of that stuff on there. Do I always hand both? So no, if it's a very unprocessed sound, like let's say like a Stones track or something, I don't process it. If it's an 80s-ish sounding thing or something, yes, I process it. And do I clean bleed? I mix. Yes, if I have to send a snare to a room, to a reverb, like, will I gate it? Yes, I will. Will I EQ to cut out kick drum? Thank you, Victor. So appreciated, dude. Thank you. Will I EQ like a bottom snare, like low end out of a bottom snare? For sure, no doubt, because I want my clients to get the best sounding thing as possible. And I'm thanks, Chris. Yeah, Patreon. Yeah, I just want them to sound good. So, and I want them to do this work. I want them to pull the tracks in and go like, I don't have to do anything, So, does that help, Mr. CTRO drums? Does that help? Yeah. All right, guys. I think I'm gonna bail. Actually, answer me. Please hit the reply on there, and then I'm gonna sign up for this week. Okay. Yes. Right. Great. All right. All right, subscribe to the channel if you guys are not. I'm assuming you guys probably, I shouldn't say guys, you all people are. I got the Patreon. There's like 70 something videos up there you can check out on all kinds of things. I have my my course I just put out. Thanks, Anonymous, which is Introduction to Drum Recording. Some people may be beyond that, but that's available on Vimeo. Thanks, Anonymous. Appreciate that, man. Or whoever you are. I shouldn't say man. Thank you. Yeah, the Patreon and the course. And yeah, I'll just keep doing these things. I'm going to be doing these live YouTube things more. If you guys post on social media, whatever, any stuff about this, it's much appreciated. I also have the mailing list at my website that, again, I will not inundate you with things. It's every couple weeks. You're going to get a little gem that's not anywhere else. So, all right. Take care, y'all. Thanks for chipping in on this, anyone who did, and I appreciate it. All right. Oh, Xander, where can we buy the course? It's on Vimeo. Hang on, I'll give you the link. It's also in most of my YouTube videos. I have the link up, but it's right there. And I think you have to join Vimeo, but that's free. You just sign up for it, but then the course is there. And it's $25. It's 9 videos, 2 hours worth of introduction to recording. But I've put almost in any YouTube video, I've put a link there, or you can get it through my website, which is just blaircinta.com. Or if you do blaircinta.com/sticks-wires. You can get it right there. Xander, thank you. I think I'm pronouncing your name right, I hope. Yeah, the course is available there. All right, y'all. Thanks much. I'll see you soon. Thanks for checking in. This is always fun. All right, bye.